The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
Pompey are hoping for a huge injury boost with Callum Lang ahead of their championship clash with Millwall. John Mousinho reckons Callum Lang will come back into the Pompey side firing on all cylinders. The Blues boss knows there's no point trying to rein in his side's livewire, as he prepares to return against Millwall next weekend. But Mousinho insists they need to be absolutely certain Lang is fully fit before throwing him back in, especially given the Scousers' all-action playing style. Lang is set to make his comeback after more than 3 months on the sidelines, having undergone hamstring surgery after limping off against Norwich in August. The 27-year-old's return couldn't come at a better time for Pompey's misfiring attack, which has laboured through a dismal run of just 1 win in 11 championship games. Mousinho admitted Lang's high-energy approach is desperately needed, with the Blues unable to match the intensity he brings. And because of how he plays, there's simply no way the man who scored 10 league goals last season can be asked to ease himself back in. He said, "We can try to hold him back, but I just don't think it's going to happen. What we have to do with Langy is make sure that when we do play him he's completely ready. There's no way we can ask Langy to operate at anything less than 100%. You could tell him, Cal, take it easy this afternoon, don't go charging about, but I just don't think that's in his DNA. That's brilliant, and that's exactly why we need him. We need his aggression, and we need him back in the team."
We do. We need him back in the team. There's no two ways about it, and everybody knows that. Lots of people have been playing this game of what's gone wrong over the last couple of months with Pompey, and we've been holding off that on Pompey Sound, but I'm going to put my toe in the water right now and say that the thing that's lacking isn't quality. The thing that's lacking is intensity. Intensity is a very important part of the way that Pompey historically play their football. And the intensity of Matt Ritchie actually probably outshone his obvious Premier League ability. His intensity was fantastic, and it rubs off on the players around you. You've got to have at least one player in your side, Pompey anyway, who is intense. And when we've got Lang out and Segacic, who is another intense player, isn't he? Then you're going to suffer. For all the Premier League quality of Chaplin, and for all the high-end championship quality of Swift, these aren't intense players. They do not rush from pillar to post. They do not exude an air of urgency about their game. If anything, they both like to be quite languid in possession. And when not in possession, there's something about them they want to give off, the notion that they can do it without breaking a sweat. They do sweat, of course, and they do get stuck in, and they do play the pressing game, but they don't play it in the same way as the likes of Segacic or Callum Lang. Or won't it just be so good to see him herring after everything, herring after every opponent that's anywhere near him that's got the ball, and above all getting the ball and herring at his defender and slipping him, which he does so well, and scoring goals. I'm going to get carried away. I'm suddenly somebody who thinks that it's all down to Callum Lang. I keep forgetting it's not. According to everybody else, it's all down to Josh Murphy. Well, the both of them in the side wouldn't be a bad thing, would it? That surely is going to bring about a change of fortunes and a few goals. I asked Steve Bone how he thinks Pompey are likely to make room in the squad for further additions in January. Would we be getting rid, if that's the right word, of any players who are under contract? And if it's loan players, which of our loan players does he think are vulnerable?
Could be Bianchini, couldn't it? You would think that he would be a contender to go back to Swansea. It's not really happened. He's had a couple of games, been a couple of games from him where he's shown flashes of what he can do, and you've thought there's a good player there. He just needs a bit of confidence. He needs a goal or an assist to lift him, but he hasn't had that run of games, and I don't think the manager rates him highly enough to come in and make a difference now to what we've had. You know, if you compare him to Yang, no comparison really, is there? Yang has made a big impact, not so much in recent weeks, but he did back at the start of October. Got a couple of important goals against Watford and Middlesbrough, 2 goals in a week, I think, didn't he? So we certainly won't be looking to move him back. You have to ask as well whether will you be able to move players on who are not loan players, contracted players. Nobody's contract runs out in the middle of the season, but might there be one or two there that if you explain to them that they're not really seen as first choice, first team players, might they then be open to a move to a League One club, something like that?
Steve Bone on the subject of making room in the squad for additions during the January transfer window. If you want to hear the whole of his piece, you can hear it variously across our output on Pompey Sound, or you can go to our podcast service, which is Pompey Sound Podcasts. If you put that into your podcast provider, whoever that is, we've got presence on most of those providers, and you're looking for the podcast that starts with the word Steve. I think today says something like Steve, or the most recent one I should say, said something like Steve solves our goal drought. And he has a go.
Pompey Academy had to battle from behind to secure a 1-1 draw with Barnet in the Youth Alliance League. It was the visitors who took the lead at Copner Road, but Nola Puram nodded home a CRN Martin cross to ensure the spoils would be shared. Lead professional development phase coach Sam Hudson said, "We didn't really get going in the first half, certainly with the ball. There was an injury break that allowed us to get the boys together to regroup, because up until that point, we were camped in our own half. Our opponents moved the ball quickly, and we weren't able to get near them. There were a couple of counters from us, but we were mostly chasing our tails. There were a few moments that we were unable to punish, but it was pleasing to see the boys keep fighting to get an equaliser. We spoke at the break about taking better care of the ball, because our duelling and individual defending were fine. The problem was that when we regained possession, we were seemingly unable to string two passes together. We started to do that a little bit better, and also increased our intensity in the press, showing more aggression, and playing on the front foot. There were a few moments that we were unable to punish, but it was pleasing to see the boys keep fighting to get an equaliser. But in future fixtures we're certainly going to have to show much more composure on the ball to give ourselves a better chance of creating chances and scoring goals."
And it's good and it's valuable that so many Pompey fans have been so patient, and indeed so many people behind the scenes at Pompey have been so patient with the process of bringing on our academy, our juniors, our under-18s, our youngsters, bringing on our youngsters, so that on the bench, in our last game, we had an academy player. We had a youngster. We had an Ashton Sizer, who I'm afraid I am unfamiliar with. That's a disgrace, and it's probably true of you, dear Pompey fan. But we are waiting for these young men to come through in the case of the men's game, and the young women, of course, to come through in the case of the women's game. But it is really beginning to happen at Pompey, isn't it? We've got Toby doing so well north of the border. He clearly is going to be a professional goalkeeper of the highest standard. Fingers crossed and touching wood when saying that. So there's one huge success from the process which was began under Danny Cowley of turning the academy around. Michael Eisner made it absolutely clear that it was one of his priorities, but that it was going to take time. One or two Pompey fans who are too impatient for it to happen overnight simply don't understand so much, not only about football, but about youth development. Development is the key word. Development. Development is something that you cannot instigate overnight and expect a huge sudden thrust of development overnight. The key word in all the words that describes Sam Hudson's job, I'll go bzz when we get to it. Lead professional, bzz, development, phase coach. Lead professional phase coach, yeah, okay. Development. And that's what we're doing. We're developing these youngsters, and they are starting to come through, and they are beginning to become people that we can expect to be challenging for a place in the full squad. We've got one or two people who are very, very young, who are in the full squad. And we've got one or two people who are very, very good, who are out on loan. We are beginning to develop that important bedrock at any top professional football club, which is a youth setup. Let's call it like that. Lead professional development phase coach Sam Hudson. And you can't do that overnight, and it hasn't happened overnight, but it is clearly happening. So well done, surely, to all involved in that setup and the progress that they're clearly making.